Hi, thank you, and welcome to the Valley of Opportunity. I didn't really have any prepared, I didn't think I would get a chance to speak today, so I didn't have anything really prepared, but I wanted to say that what I could input to it. I do have an experience in pollution. I worked for the U.S. Coast Guard for 30 years. In the last 15 years, I was a water pollution investigator. So I understand pollution, and I understand problems with it, and I've seen it in firsthand. But I also know that water can be cleaned. I know I was in a combat situation in Haiti, and they actually drew water from the heavily polluted bay, and we drank it. They had a thing the size of a truck, a tractor trailer, that they filtered 1,000 gallons an hour. So water can be cleaned. But I'm also here. I'm able to be here today because I don't have a job. My brothers, I have two brothers who don't have jobs. They were both parts of industry, and they were laid off, and they still haven't been able to get back to work. They have sons. My one brother has two sons who in their 20s, and they don't have jobs. My other brother, my younger brother, his son moved to Colorado to get a job. I think the opportunity is here. It's the Valley of Opportunity. You know, right across the river over here in Binghamton, there's a natural gas power plant. It was closed down due to deregulation of the natural gas or the electric industry, and it's sat there idle for more than 10 years. Right next to that is a large parcel where the buildings were torn down. A natural gas well there would power that power plant, which previously powered 40% of the city of Binghamton's power. You talk about clean energy, I mean, it doesn't get much more than that. You know, down in Johnson City, there's a coal power plant that shut down. But it's standing there right ready to go in case we need extra power, so you can fire up some more coal. To me, the natural gas power plant's the obvious way to go. This is still a Valley of Opportunity. It always has been. You know, they've used the resources, the wood, and the industries that have been here, and now the opportunity is right under our feet with natural gas. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Sautner, and you'll be followed by Wes Gillingham.
Hi, thanks for being here. My name is Craig Sautner. I come from Dimmock, Pennsylvania. We heard a lot about Pennsylvania today, how to not do things right. I've been living with a contaminated well now for over 3 years. Right now, we live on a water buffalo, which has provided water that the gas industry has trucked in every day so we can have water in our homes. As of the end of the month, November 30th, they are taking our water away. So we're supposed to go back on the wells that's the same contaminated well. I don't know if, you know, the DEP was on our side in this thing through the whole thing until the last 6 months or so, maybe a year. They fought for us to get a water line from Montrose down to Dimmock. Then they said we had too much opposition, so they were going to shut the water line down and take it away from us. That's what they did. They took it away from us, and they said they got us compensation for our homes, twice the value of our homes, which was only the tax value. We did not take any of that money. That's still there, because I would have to leave Cabot Oil and Gas off the hook for contaminating my well. I will not pay a penny to clean up my water. Never. Now, you know, we thought the DEP was on our side until lately, when they finally did say, we're taking your water away from you as of the, November 30th. Cabot relinquished. They don't have to be responsible for providing us with clean water anymore in our homes. We're supposed to go back on this contaminated water again. Now, we've used that. We even had and people say about a filtration system. We have a filtration system in our home. We used it for almost a year like that, and it was so bad that DEP finally took it offline. My wife ran out of water one day, spring water for the dogs, and gave it to them. They threw up. Dogs can go out to a puddle and drink water. These dogs threw up from well water that was supposed to be clean. Now, all of a sudden, we're going back on that water again. That's totally unacceptable. We have proven evidence from the DEP that they caused the problems. Are you guys willing to take that responsibility on for people to have contaminated wells? It's not a pretty process. You're going to be getting a lot of calls and everything, and it's not fun to go through that. But my daughter said it the best when she talked to my wife not too long ago. She said, "Mom, I don't want to go back on that well. I don't want to go back on that water again, that contaminated water again, because I don't want hives and I don't want the rashes all over my body. And besides that, she says, I want to have babies someday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sautner. Mr. Gillingham, and you will be followed by W. Hang.
A few weeks ago, Governor Cuomo was stating we're leaving it up to the science. I'm going to read from the documented science, pages and pages of scientific documented modeling, some from industry itself. Fracturing by injecting fluids into the shale will cause conditions that make transport of contaminants from the shale to surface aquifers possible. The SGEIS presents an erroneous analysis that concludes that contaminants in the shale are isolated and cannot reach the near surface aquifers. It's not a question of if it can come up, it's a question of when and where. This new document we've been handed, the improved version, no health impact analysis, no air impact regulations proposed, no regional geologic specific regulations. The geology across all of New York State is exactly the same. That's ridiculous. Setbacks proposed, but no scientific documentation on those figures. I loved at Oneonta a little while ago, a fisherman testified he had to walk past the drilling rig, the diesel fuel, to get to the 200-foot setback for contaminated dishwater when you're camping, past the 150-foot mark for industry. Arbitrary setbacks with no scientific documentation. Then we have the statements by the industry, they will not use open pits. That's what it says in the SGEIS, so we're not going to ban it. How much science does that take? Over 18,000 unplugged wells, which will act as a conduit for poison to reach our aquifers. The DEC is going to rely on industry to find and document where those are. I'm not sure how many people in this room trust industry. In a few seconds, Hal will pick up that little bell and ring the bell and say, I'm done speaking. It will no longer go on the record, and I will be asked to stop talking. Mr. Cuomo, you can shorten the comment period, lump the regs in with the Speedies permit, put it all in the same comment period. You can ring the bell after 3 minutes on the comments to a 1,500-page document. This is outrageous. The people of New York State will not listen to that little bell and stop. We will stand up and speak out about these documentation. This is the science, Mr. Cuomo. It is time to really pay attention to the science.
All right, folks.
We want this document thrown out. I'm going to use a technical term. This document sucks.
Kill the mic. Again, I appreciate that emotions run high on this, but this is not helpful. We are trying to get as many comments here as possible today, and that does not help us accomplish that goal. Okay, Mr. Hang, and you will be followed by Howard Hannam.
Greetings, I'm Walter Hang. I'm a lifelong resident of New York State. I reviewed the revised draft SGEIS and determined that it is a deliberately misleading, factually incorrect, incomplete, and inadequate proposal for safeguarding New York's environment and public health. For the detailed reasons documented in my testimony, I request that Governor Cuomo immediately require DEC to withdraw the proposal in order to resolve its fundamental shortcomings and to comply with Executive Order number 41. I'm joined by nearly 4,000 signatories to a coalition letter making that request. Until that requirement is fully achieved, the de facto moratorium on horizontal hydrofracking in New York's Marcellus Shale must be continued. DEC's SGEIS is based on the erroneous assertion that, quote, no documented instances of groundwater contamination are recorded in the department's files from previous hydraulic fracturing projects in New York, close quote. This statement is factually incorrect and deliberately misleading. Hundreds of natural gas and oil drilling, hydrofracking, and related problems have reportedly impacted private water wells, homes, and the environment in New York. Those problems are documented by DEC as well as health authorities in Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and Allegheny counties. For example, DEC is well aware that the Ferrugia family near Jamestown, New York, has not been able to drink their well water since 2007 after a gas well was drilled approximately 300 feet from their home. Their water is so polluted that their veterinarian even warned them not to allow their dogs to drink the water. Chautauqua County health authorities determined, quote, "This is a well-documented case showing drinking water impacts that are seemingly related to gas well development," close quote. Yet DEC has refused to assist this family. The Ferrugia's problem directly refutes the revised draft SGEIS assertions about gas drilling incidents in Chautauqua County because A, it occurred relatively recently and is ongoing, B, was not prevented by DEC's regulatory safeguards or gas well drilling and production improvements, C, is documented by pre-drilling and post-drilling drinking water baseline testing, and D, was confirmed by local health officials. In addition to the regulatory enforcement problems noted above, the revised draft SGEIS must be immediately withdrawn and sent back to the drawing board because it does not resolve key concerns voiced by Region 2 of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, academic researchers, citizens, and local officials. It fails to, as you've already heard, afford equal health protection for all New Yorkers, ban gas drilling wastewaters from being discharged into publicly owned treatment works, ban toxic gas drilling wastewaters from being recycled as hydrofracking or drilling fluids. In conclusion, against that grim background, the revised draft SGEIS fails to provide a meaningful plan to safeguard New York from irreparable harm and must be immediately withdrawn in order to safeguard public health and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hannam, you'll be followed by Louis Allstadt.
My name is Howard Hannam. I'm a small farm owner from Walton, New York. I see nothing in the 1,100 pages that limits the amount or usage of drinking water. Nothing. And it seems as though the agency has taken for granted the very use of our valuable resource. The average fracking job takes 5 to 7 million gallons of fresh water per well, with an average well pad consisting of 6 wells and another 3 million gallons for the flowback pit. It's very easy to do the math on the total amount of water needed. If a well is double fracked or triple fracked, those numbers need to be added in before multiplying by 6. It has become very commonplace out here in the field to see wells fracked over 23 times. So all of those millions of gallons of fresh water are permanently poisoned and will never be fit for human consumption. With anywhere from 1,800 to 3,600 wells targeted for the southern tier alone, by the end of phase 1, there will be well over 1.8 trillion gallons of fresh water poisoned by the end of phase 1. For every million gallons of fresh water used, there are 20 tons of toxic poisons mixed in. Included in the list of over 900 chemicals is barium, strontium, manganese, diethylbenzene, arsenic, acetone, hydrochloric acid. If the aquifer is punctured and poisoned on the flowback process, all customers serviced on that line will end up with poisoned water, and not just one. Fracking fluid kills vegetation as well as fish and wildlife. There are documented incidents throughout Pennsylvania, such as Mill Creek, the Laser Pipeline in Bedford, PA, Leroy Township, and Dimmock, where we have seen methane migration throughout streams and tributaries. And the creeks are literally empty of fish and wildlife. In Dimmock, the methane migration was so bad that 15 homes have permanently lost their drinking water. These findings are public knowledge and filed with the DEP, and I see nothing in the report that even suggests that a phone call was made on the part of the DEC to acquire these files from Harrisburg. Methane migration is very real and very dangerous. Studies at Lock Haven State and Carnegie Mellon in Pennsylvania reveal the following information. With 5 different tests and 5 different results, there were 829,800 pounds of total dissolved solvents in the Monongahela River near Pittsburgh, 15,000 pounds of barium, 17,000 pounds of strontium, and a whopping 487,000 pounds of chloride disposed into the Monongahela River each day. The gas company blamed it on a nearby industrial park. There was no nearby industrial park. There was no near industrial park within 35 miles and none near any tributaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allstadt, and you'll be followed by Nicole Dillingham.
My name is Lou Allstadt. I worked in the oil and gas industry for more than 30 years. In the late 1990s, I was an executive vice president of Mobil Oil Corporation, responsible for exploration and producing in the U.S., Canada, and Latin America. I was also on the board of the U.S. Oil and Gas Association. I have very serious concerns with the SGEIS, and I'll focus on just a few of them. First, there's no single complete document that the public can go to in order to fully understand the proposed regulatory system. For example, you have to search the 2011 and 2009 SGEISs and the 1992 GEIS to learn that the DEC is allowing drilling only 100 feet from a home or 150 feet from a school or hospital. Information critical to public understanding of the issues is buried. In addition, these distances are hardly the unparalleled setbacks that the DEC has claimed. In other states, many localities require far greater distances. Second, this GEIS omits critical information. For example, you have to read the tiny print on figure 4.13 to know that that chart of geological faults was compiled in 1977 and that it excludes some important data. Later maps by other authors show far more faults in New York State. Third, a number of points defy logic. For example, the New York City and Syracuse reservoirs would be protected from the well pads by a buffer that runs from the edge of the reservoir to the top of the watershed and then another 4,000 feet because those water systems are not filtered. The rest of the state would have a much smaller temporary buffer zone of only 2,000 feet from the edge of the reservoir. This makes no sense. Most of the dangerous chemicals associated with drilling and fracking are soluble and will pass right through municipal water filtration systems. Fourth, the DEC has made some positive proposals in this SGEIS, but has stopped short of making them fully effective. One example is the requirement that most additives, flowback fluids, etc., be held in containers within secondary containment areas, which is great. This should be mandatory without exception for all such materials, including drilling fluids. Another example is that the DEC will encourage greener drilling fluids and points out that, quote, further research into each alternative is warranted to fully understand the environmental impacts and benefits of using the alternatives. That's a great approach. They want to do a holistic full cycle impact study. If the DEC can do this for new additives, why has it not applied the same rigor to current fracking fluids? No fracking fluid should be allowed unless it passes this rigorous evaluation. The draft GES is so flawed that it should be withdrawn. I'll submit additional written comment.
Thank you. Nicole Dillingham, and you'll be followed by Caitlin Pixley.
Good afternoon, Judge Alexander and Judge Sherman. My name is Nicole Dillingham. I work with Otsego 2000, located on the shores of historic Lake Otsego in the village of Cooperstown. My organization has worked for 30 years to preserve and protect the historic, environmental, agricultural, and viewshed resources that exist in Otsego County for all of New Yorkers and its many visitors. We are home to the Baseball Hall of Fame, to the James Fenimore Cooper Museum, to the Glimmerglass Historic District, to the Lindsay Patent Historic District, and we have more than 2,000 structures eligible for listing or listed on the state and national registers of historic places. In short, we have a lot of real estate to protect in Otsego County. And we are dreadfully concerned that the DEC's plans for heavy industrialization in this precious, pristine region will cause severe economic damage to our region and to the state of New York. In driving over today, I couldn't help but think that just this week, our government is spending untold resources to remove a group of demonstrators from a patch of land in New York City. They want to remove the Occupy Wall Street demonstrators from one small park, But at the same time, the same government, the same state government, proposes to occupy virtually every square mile of upstate New York with drilling pads. As you know, the DEC intends to put a drilling pad on every square mile. That drilling pad will be at least 10 acres in size, and it will cover 85% of the Marcellus shale play. That doesn't even include the Utica shale play. We are going to be occupied by drilling companies. Oh, and by the way, the DEC did this without studying the impact it would have on the related businesses, on the businesses that are already there, the tourism businesses, the recreational businesses, the museums, the healthcare facilities, the universities, the farms, the organic farms, the farmers markets. And isn't that the reason they're excluding people from the park in New York? Because it's hurting the businesses in the surrounding area?
Again, folks, please hold your applause.
Am I missing something? You know, you said something today. You said emotions run high, and they do. When emotions run high, it is all the more important for our government to follow the rules and to make sure that the process is fair. This process is not fair. This draft is submitted prematurely. It is. We urge you to withdraw the draft. Thank you.
Caitlin Pixley, and you will be followed by Reverend William Keefer. Mr. Evans.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Pixley, and I am testifying today on behalf of the Sierra Club Atlantic chapter, which represents our 36,000 members statewide. I am also testifying today as someone that was born and raised in the Southern Tier. My parents still live in Bainbridge, New York, on land that has been handed down over several generations and is one of the last original farms on our hill that has been kept intact, not sold off and parceled out a few acres at a time. Our 150 acres is still farmed year after year, but if hydraulic fracturing were to come to our area as described in the draft SGEIS and on the scale projected, the farming and the overall quality of life may be in jeopardy. There are many flaws with this document, but what I find the most jarring is one, that the DSGEIS contains no comprehensive analysis of cumulative impacts. A full build-out model needs to be conducted to better understand the impact that the projected tens of thousands of wells will have on our air, water, ecosystems, and communities. Second, DEC still refuses to study the impacts of pipelines and compressor stations. Natural gas development will bring with it the construction of delivery and pressurization infrastructure. The fracturing of habitats and the health risks associated with these infrastructures will be debilitating to the area. Third, local ordinances and land use laws still do not come before drilling interests. This needs to be changed. The SGEIS can clarify once and for all that municipalities have the right to enforce land use ordinances, like zoning, over oil and gas interests. Instead, the DEC says that it will issue a drilling permit if a land use conflict cannot be resolved. Fourth, disposal of fracking waste in municipal wastewater treatment facilities is still legal. This method of disposal should be banned. It is the white elephant in the room. What is happening with the wastewater? The SGEIS fails to illustrate the sheer lack of capacity that New York State has from the disposal of the anticipated millions of gallons of drilling waste. Setting up the possibility of disposal when the risks of failure and lack of enforcement are so great is unacceptable. I thank you for the opportunity to speak and hope you reconsider moving forward with this very lacking document. Thank you.
At this point, I'd like to announce that we have quite a few people signed up to speak, and right now I'm calling up numbers 22 through 32. And I'd like to get as many people in as possible. I would again ask that you limit your applause so that it'll allow us to move at a faster pace. Right now I would ask Sarah Eckel, Craig Stephen, Ellen Harrison, Catherine Wagner, Kim Jastrzymski, Luddy Marsh, Kim Michaels, James Dean, Douglas Lee, and Marion Carl.
Thank you. Reverend William Keefer, and you'll be followed by Hazel Brandt.
First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I want to thank you for the job that you do in protecting our environment. I am a Christian minister and a man of faith, and as such, I certainly believe that we are entrusted with this environment and that we need to protect it and that we need to care for it. I'm also the pastor of a small local church. My input today is simply to bring their perspective. In my church, there are a lot of people who are really struggling financially. We've had some people who have lost their homes. We've had some people who have lost their jobs. We have many families who have homes and have jobs, but they're not sure how they're going to clothe their children, feed their children. They're not sure how they're going to keep them warm this winter. In our church, we've got a number of young people that are gifted and talented and looking for opportunity, and it's hard for them to see that they have that kind of opportunity here in our area. They don't want to leave, but they don't know what to do. I'm simply here with a request that you would, in your weighing the pluses and minuses of all this, and I know that's your responsibility. I don't have a lot of figures. I've done my reading. I have my opinions. But none of us are going to convince the others of what our opinions are. But I would ask you to consider, while you're looking at all of these possible problems that could arise, certainly we need to do due diligence. We need to hold companies accountable. But at the same time, consider also those people that are like the ones that are in my church. They're struggling. They need help. The economic inflow into this area is not something that is an impersonal corporate thing. For me, I'm looking in the eyes of people every week. I deal with them in my interactions with them every week, and they're struggling. They need help. If there are other ways that jobs can be brought into this area, by all means, let's do it. But if this can be, and certainly by the reading that I've done, it seems that it is possible for it to be safe and to be effective, that's your responsibility to make sure that it is. But if it can be, from my perspective as a pastor, as somebody who deals with families all the time, we need this in this area. I think our state needs it. I think this area needs it. And I think our country needs it in terms of the energy that's available right here in our own country. So thank you for your work, and thank you for giving me this time.
Thank you, Reverend Hazel Brandt. And you'll be followed by Sarah Eckel.
Hello. I am Hazel Brandt from Windsor, a resident there for 47 years. A brief of who I am. I was the first woman police officer in Broome County in 1975. I was the Windsor Town Tax Collector for 16 years. I drove a Windsor school bus for 27 years. Now a senior citizen, but still active in community affairs. This is going to be more personal than it is other things. My husband and I were from Orange County, New York, about 65 miles north of New York City. My husband was a lead engineer for Operating Engineers Local 825 out of Newark, New Jersey. We moved to Deposit in 1960 for Bob to work on the Cannonsville Dam and Reservoir. Before that started, one morning at 3 a.m. in the morning, we went up to where the Cannonsville used to be. Cemeteries had been moved, farms, homes, churches, stores, and all buildings were smashed. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they lit all buildings on fire. A whole town gone to build a reservoir, very sad. I and others were crying. The people of Cannonsville gave up homes, land, and jobs so that New York City could have water. My husband and I lived in a trailer with 4 children. In 1965, we found a farm to buy. We were able to get this with the GI loan. My husband was a World War II and Korean veteran overseas both times. For 47 years, we have paid taxes and for our land and our home. We have followed the rules to do right, but as I look around, it seems like rules have changed. We should be in charge of our land, not by other people telling us what we can and can't do with our land. We went to gas meetings, and we want it to be done safely. Since 2008, enough should have been learned to let drilling start. My husband worked underground in all of the shafts going to New York City for the water lines. My husband wanted to see this happen, but unfortunately, January 8th, he turned 84 and he passed away the next day. His hope was that gas drilling would start and be done safely. And I feel the same way. And I'd like to be able to say, drill, baby, drill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.